Some say that deep in the Polar music archives in Stockholm, there lies a tape that has never been released, a song Agnetha Fältskog recorded right after her divorce. The only song she ever forbade to be played, not even a single note. A former sound engineer once whispered, "She cried through the entire session, and when the music stopped, no one dared to press play again." No one knows why she banned it. Some claim it was her farewell to love. Others believe it was her way of saying goodbye to herself. And from that moment on, the angel's voice vanished. No announcement, no farewell, only a silence so haunting that the world still wonders. Did she truly walk away from music? Or was she hiding from the light to protect what was left of her soul? Stay until the end of this video, because what you're about to hear might make you see ABBA and Agnetha herself in a completely different light. If you love true stories and untold secrets, make sure to subscribe and join us as we uncover the rest of this legend's mystery. Agnetha Fältskog was born in 1950 in Jönköping, a small town nestled among Sweden's green forests and icy lakes. Her childhood unfolded in a modest wooden house where music was not just a pastime but the very breath of life. Her father, Ingvar, had once dreamed of becoming an artist, but life forced him to set aside his guitar to support the family with a small shop. Her mother, Birgit, was gentle and patient, a woman who filled their home with warmth, singing soft folk lullabies to her daughter. In that cozy kitchen, fragrant with freshly baked bread, little Agnetha grew up surrounded by melody and soon realized that music was the truest language she could ever speak. At the age of 6, she sat before an old piano, her tiny fingers pressing against the cold keys, and wrote her first song, Två små troll, Two Little Trolls. A simple tune, but the first seed of genius. Some say that when Ingvar heard his daughter sing for the first time, he fell silent, then began to cry. He whispered to his wife, "She's not just singing, she's calling the whole world closer." No one knows if that story is true, but neighbors still tell how the lights in the Fältskog home stayed on all night. Perhaps he knew in that moment that the dream he once abandoned had found its way back, through the pure, crystalline voice of his little girl, the one whose name would one day become legend, Agnetha Fältskog. What do you think about this, and let us know in the comments. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on the stories hidden behind the brightest lights of Hollywood. In 1967, at just 17 years old, Agnetha Fältskog released her debut single, Jag var så kär, I Was So in Love. The song was a tender yet wistful ballad about first love and the fragile line between affection and loss. Her voice, pure, delicate, and deeply emotional, made listeners feel as though they were secretly reading a page from her diary. Within weeks, the single sold over 880,000 copies, an extraordinary number for a young Swedish artist at the time. From an unknown girl in a small town, Agnetha suddenly became a national sensation, appearing on radio, in newspapers, and on television. People were drawn to her not only for her voice, but for the vulnerability in it, as if she were singing straight from her heart. Rumor has it that Jag var så kär was more than just a song. It was a secret love confession to her older vocal coach, the man who first recognized her gift and taught her to believe in her voice. No one ever confirmed it. But if you listen closely, in the final note of the song, her voice trembles, as though she's trying to hide a secret only she knows. Perhaps that was the first, and the last, time she ever sang about a love that never had the chance to begin. Agnetha's soaring success in Sweden soon opened a new door. Germany, where record labels were eagerly searching for fresh, distinctive voices. There, she began working with German songwriter and producer Birgit Zimmermann, who was said to have discovered her during a small performance in Stockholm. For Agnetha, it felt like her first real dream taking shape, a chance to step beyond the borders of Scandinavia and reach the wider world. But within months, that dream began to fracture. Germany wasn't as gentle as she had imagined. The press called her too innocent for the market, while producers urged her to change her voice, her image, even her smile. Agnetha refused. She felt herself slipping away, losing the one thing she valued most, her identity. In the end, she packed her things and returned to Sweden, carrying with her a painful lesson about the price of fame. Not everyone is allowed to stay true to themselves under the spotlight. Some say her decision to leave Germany had less to do with her career and more to do with a secret affair with Zimmermann himself, who had once promised to marry her but vanished without a word. No documents ever confirmed it, yet those who worked with her said that when Agnetha returned to Stockholm, the radiant smile of the 17-year-old girl was gone. Her eyes still shone, but within them lingered a faint trace of mist, the first quiet shadow of adulthood. In 1969, during a television program in Stockholm, Agnetha Fältskog met Björn Ulvaeus, a member of the Hootenanny Singers, a young man with a gentle smile and eyes that always seemed curious about the world. At the time, she was a promising young singer recently returned from Germany, while he was already a respected songwriter. Their meeting was brief, yet something quietly sparked between them. Something deeper than attraction. A silent recognition of two kindred souls. 2 years later, in 1971, they married in a small, intimate ceremony surrounded by the pine forests of Sweden. It wasn't just the wedding of two artists. It was the beginning of a new chapter in the history of music. Their love, wrapped in sincerity and melody, became the spark that would later ignite ABBA, the name that would soon echo across the world. Those who were there say that during that very first meeting, Björn softly told her, "If you sing with me, the world will hear us both." No one knows if he truly said those words or if it's a story romanticized by time. But when their voices finally blended, hers pure and crystalline, his warm and grounded, it felt like something beyond music. It was magic. The kind of magic the world would come to know as ABBA. From 1974 onward, after ABBA's victory at Eurovision with Waterloo, the group became a global phenomenon. From Europe to America, from dance floors to television screens, 4 young people from Scandinavia made the whole world move to their rhythm. Dancing Queen, Mamma Mia, Take a Chance on Me. Each song became a dazzling piece of the legendary pop mosaic. Among them, Agnetha Fältskog shone the brightest. Her voice, pure, emotional, and effortlessly radiant, became the very symbol of ABBA's perfection. She was both gentle and fierce, capable of singing about love, pain, and hope all within a single breath. When the stage lights blazed, she was the queen of the disco era. When the music stopped, she was the woman standing alone behind the curtain of fame. It's been said that during long world tours, Agnetha would often sit alone by her hotel window, gazing down at the crowds, chanting her name. She once wrote in her diary, "They love me when I sing, but no one truly hears me." That diary entry was never published, mentioned only once in an old interview before disappearing completely. No one knows if it truly existed or if it's just a legend whispered through time. But if it was real, perhaps it was the quiet confession of a lonely soul, lost amid the thunderous applause of the world. Behind the bright lights and the melodies that captivated the world, ABBA was a machine that never stopped. Endless tour schedules, back-to-back performances, and relentless pressure from the international media slowly drained the 4 young artists. In the eye of that fame-fueled storm, the marriage between Agnetha Fältskog and Björn Ulvaeus began to crack. Both tried to maintain a flawless image in public, but behind the curtain, the silence between them grew longer than the songs they sang on stage. In 1979, they officially divorced, a shock to fans everywhere. Yet, what earned the world's respect was that they kept standing side by side, still singing, still smiling, as if nothing had broken. It wasn't just professionalism. It was a quiet kind of courage, a final act of love expressed through music. No one knows exactly what caused their split. Some say Björn had fallen for a younger singer. Others claim Agnetha felt trapped in a marriage manufactured for the public. But the most haunting rumor remains that of the final tape, a recording of a song she made but never released, said to be her farewell to her former husband. The sound engineer who was there once recalled, "She sang as if she were crying." That recording, to this day, has never been heard. After ABBA disbanded, Agnetha Fältskog continued her own path, quietly holding on to the belief that music could still heal everything. In 1983, she released Wrap Your Arms Around Me, her first solo album in English, which quickly climbed the European charts. 2 years later came Eyes of a Woman, proving that her voice remained as clear and captivating as ever, capable of silencing the world with its purity. Yet behind that commercial success, Agnetha slowly withdrew. She turned down international performances, limited her television appearances, and distanced herself from the spotlight. People began calling her the woman who disappeared from ABBA, as if, after singing her final note, she had retreated into a world entirely her own. Rumors spread that Agnetha suffered from a fear of flying and a fear of crowds, that every time she had to leave Sweden, she would stay awake all night, crying through the flight. No medical records ever confirmed this, but those who worked with her recalled, "We had to comfort her like a child before boarding the plane." Perhaps it wasn't just a fear of flying, but a fear of being seen, the quiet dread of someone who once belonged to the entire world, now longing for a place where no one could find her. The 1990s were among the most turbulent years in Agnetha Fältskog's life. After years of trying to rebuild herself, she faced a series of losses that left deep scars. Both of her parents passed away within a short time of each other, and her second marriage to Swedish surgeon Thomas Sonnenfeld quietly fell apart. As loneliness settled in, another storm began to brew. A fan from the Netherlands, Gert van der Graaf, started showing up at her home, sending letters, making phone calls, even following her every move. At first, Agnetha chose silence, hoping it would all fade away. But when fear turned into obsession, she was forced to seek legal protection. A restraining order was issued, yet the emotional wounds remained, deep, invisible, and impossible to erase. Some claim their connection wasn't entirely one-sided. Old Swedish tabloids once hinted that Agnetha might have felt pity, even reached out to the man before things spiraled out of control. No evidence, no confirmation. Still, the story persisted, evolving into a dark legend that haunted her name. The woman once adored by the world had become the central figure in a tragedy where even she could no longer tell what was real and what was rumor. After years of loss and turmoil, Agnetha Fältskog chose to step away from the world that once adored her. She moved to the island of Eckerö, not far from Stockholm, a place where the clear sky reflects on still waters and rows of birch trees sway gently in the wind. There, she could often be seen walking her little dog, tending to her lavender garden, or spending quiet hours listening to old records. No more flashing lights, no more tours or interviews. Only birdsong, the scent of grass, and the kind of peace she had never truly known in half a lifetime. In one rare interview, Agnetha once said, "I didn't disappear. I just chose silence to hear myself again." Locals on the island say that every evening, as the sun sinks behind the trees and golden light spills through the window of her small house, Agnetha sometimes plays old ABBA songs. She'll sit for a long while, gazing outside, smiling softly. One neighbor said, "Sometimes I hear her singing very quietly, as if only for the wind to hear." No one knows if that story is true, but people like to believe that if you ever pass through Acaro at dusk, among the whispers of wind and water, you might still catch her voice, light as a memory that never fades. In 2004, after nearly 2 decades of silence, Agnetha Feltskog surprised the world with her quiet return through the album My Coloring Book. There was no grand promotion, no attempt to recreate old glory. She simply recorded in a small Stockholm studio, away from the noise of fame. The album was a collection of classic ballads she had loved since her youth, songs that once comforted her when the world outside grew too loud. With My Coloring Book, Agnetha wasn't chasing success. She was writing a letter to herself, gentle, honest, and profoundly intimate. When her clear, unmistakable voice filled the air, listeners could hear that it had changed. Deeper, warmer, touched by years of solitude and the quiet healing of old wounds. It's said that during the recording sessions, Agnetha always wore an old silver bracelet, a gift from Björn back in the 1970s. No one knows whether she kept it out of nostalgia or because she never truly let go of the past. But when If I Thought You'd Ever Change Your Mind played, her voice, tender yet distant, felt like a message to someone long gone. Or perhaps it was a message to the woman she once was in 1979, the one still standing under the stage lights, smiling a smile no one ever really understood. In 2021, after nearly 4 decades of silence, ABBA stunned the world with their reunion album, Voyage. They were no longer the youthful faces of the 1970s, but 4 souls who had journeyed through half a century of both the light and shadow of fame. Agnetha, Björn, Benny, and Annie Fried stood together once more, not to chase past glory but to close a chapter left unfinished. The new songs, rich with depth and emotion, stirred both nostalgia and tenderness in listeners. Voyage quickly became a global phenomenon, not just because a legend had returned, but because of the simple truth it carried, that honest music never grows old, and friendship, when woven through melody, never fades. In every track, one could still hear that unmistakable voice, clear, calm, yet carrying an ache that words could never name. The voice of Agnetha Feltskog, the woman who once made the whole world stop and listen. Some say that during the final recording session of Voyage, Agnetha turned to Björn and softly whispered, "We made it again. But this time, it's for peace." No one knows if she truly said it or if it's just another rumor. But when the final note faded, there was something weightless in the air, as if time itself had paused, and the circle had finally closed, complete and serene. Today, Agnetha Feltskog lives quietly in her small garden in Sweden, where birch trees cast their reflections on the still lake, and the breeze carries the soft scent of lavender every afternoon. She stays away from cameras, from stages, from the applause that once defined her entire life. Each day, Agnetha tends to her garden, listens to old records and lets time drift by, gently, like a melody that has finally found its ending. Yet even in her silence, the world has never stopped listening. Every time Dancing Queen plays, at a party, in a quiet cafe, or through an old radio, people still hear that voice, pure, wistful, and eternal. The voice of a woman who once stood in the spotlight, and then stepped away from it to reclaim the part of her soul she had left behind. What do you think? Did Agnetha walk away from the lights out of fear, or because she finally found what fame could never offer, peace? Share your thoughts in the comments below.